Hello everybody. So today I'm going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be not on site or anywhere on location doing a video, as I've done some others from my desk or from the Historical Society's office. So today's going to be another one. It's raining and I figured I would do something like this to talk about something that's interesting but not too talked about, and that's the train stations of the Perkiomen Railroad. Now, in our talks, we always say that there's 28 stations along the line, and that was true. Of course, there was a 28 stations the whole time from beginning to end of the railroad era, of the passenger era. The numbers changed over the years, but during the golden era, the golden age of railroading in the 1920s, and the peak of the passenger trains on the Perkiomen in the 1920s, there were 28 stations. And the interesting fact is that the line, the Perkiomen Railroad, was 38.5 miles. So if you think about it, 28 stations in 38 miles, that says a lot about the times we lived in and about the state of transportation back then. I mean, you didn't have, up until, till the Model Ts in the early 1900s and the early Dodge Brothers cars and all that, didn't have cars. You had horses. And if you wanted to go anywhere far, fairly quick, or you wanted to go across town, you didn't take your horse, you took a train. That was the only modes of transportation for the longest time, is horses or trains. And of course, bicycles came around a little later on in the end of the 1800s, but that wasn't really effective. So yeah, so there was quite a bit of stations along the Perk for the amount of mileage that it was. I mean, the Pennsburg station and the East Greenville station both still exist. And on a good day, and you stand up on top of like your car or something, you can look down and you can see the stations. So actually, East Greenville, you can see Pennsburg from East Greenville. For some reason, it's harder to see East Greenville from Pennsburg. Anyway, so yeah, the thing is though, along with the rise of the stations and the railroads, as transportation came around and got better, like around the years of the Model A's, probably in the 30s, cars got more readily available and cars got more efficient and you could go farther with them. Train travel, as far as local travel, started to fall off. So then probably right around World War II, because of troop movement, that was pretty much the last hurrah for your basic passenger trains. Now, of course, passenger trains still exist. You got intercity style trains, you got Amtrak, long distance, and different types. But at one point in time, train travel was different. You would get on a train to go 2 miles down the road in the middle of nowhere, because that's the only way you could get there quick enough. So right around, a little after World War II, passenger service on the Perkiomen started to fall off, and the stations started closing. And then by, so they started falling off and stations started closing down. And, have what we have today. But during its peak, like I said, there was 28 stations. If you see these station signs, these are replica station signs of what Reading style signs look like. These were we had an exhibit at Pennypacker Mills a couple years ago on the Perkiomen, and our friends at Pennypacker Mills made all these as part of the exhibit. So after the exhibit closed, they gave us a bunch of stuff they made. So these are courtesy of Pennypacker Mills. So of course, the one that's missing though, as we all know, when the line was first started being built in right there it said 1866 for Oaks. Right around 1866, early 66, when the line was starting construction, it started in Oaks, but just over the river was the Perk Junction. So there was a station there. Actually, that station is still there today. Some reason we don't have a sign here for the Perk Junction sign there. So, and then after that, you had Oaks, 1866. You can see from Philadelphia, the fare was 62 cents. Imagine paying 62 cents to go anywhere. Then you had Arcola, You can see sometimes it's some of the smaller stations were built a little farther on down the line as populations grew and areas grew. You can see that was quite a few years after the first one was built. Then you had Yerkes, or depending on who you are or where you're from, it's Yerkes. Some people say it's Yerkes, some say it's Yerkes. At our talks, I've been corrected every which way. I've been told people who live there forever, it's Yerkes. And they say it's Yerkes. I don't know. To me, I say Yerkes. Collegeville, right there, 1868. That station actually survived up until the early 80s. That end of the line was still in service up until the early 80s from Oaks into Collegeville. Then the station mysteriously burned when the group was trying to save it. It's funny how that works. And then, I don't know where the Ron sign is, but this is supposed to be Ron's. After Collegeville, you had Ron's. It's also named Iron Bridge Station, but then it was changed to Ron's. Gradersford. You can see the years they were built. The years of the stations being built didn't exactly correlate with the construction of the line or the years. They were built sporadically over the years. Now you see Schwanksville. Now you'll see some of these. The original station was built in 1869, but it burnt, like a lot of them. A lot of stuff burned back then. So a brick station was built in 1943. So sometimes you'll see some of these stations were rebuilt. Either they burnt or they were just too small and they needed larger stations. And I don't think any station was ever, at least on the Perk, was ever rebuilt back to wood. I think they were all, by the time they burnt or were too small, they were actually made out of brick or other materials. And then Zieglersville, also known as Delphi. Now, there's a place right behind, kind of up, I guess I say up the hill, where Zieglersville Station was. There's a restaurant called Mokia's. You don't know how many people have come up to me and asked if that was the station or said that they ate at the old station. Behind Mokia's, down the hill a little bit, is where the Zieglersville Station sat, or the Delphi, also known as Delphi. Mokia's train stop was not the train station. No part of it was. It's a newer building. So anybody ever questions, you have any questions about Mokia's, or anybody ever tells you it's the old train station, it wasn't. It never was. It was never the train station. Springmount, again, this one was rebuilt into brick in 1921. This one didn't burn, but this station was actually too small. Believe it or not, like I tell people in our talks, from pretty much from Schwanksville down past like Kratz area, almost into Green Lane, that area of the Perkiomen was a very popular tourist attraction from like the 1800s up until the 20s or 30s. There was all kinds of camps. There was all the cottages. If you ever go along 29 from like Schwanksville down towards Collegeville, and you see, if you know where the trail's at, which was the railroad, and you see little shacks or little cabins and little houses, those were built, most of those were built because of the railroad, because there was a huge tourist industry of people coming into town. Hard to believe people would come down that way for the summer breaks, but if you lived in the city, you go on the train and you go a little ways out and you're out, you got clean water, clean air, clean environment, and beautiful scenery. So yeah, so this station was actually in Springmount, was actually built to accommodate larger crowds because of the tourism that came through. At the peak in the 20s, on Sunday nights, I think it was 14 train cars to take passengers back out of town on Sunday nights. That's how popular it was. Then you got Salford. It was also known as Rudy in the early days. Nobody knows why. Hendrick Station. That's a long story. Believe it or not, that was a small little whistle stop station. It still exists, mostly. It was bought by a family in the 50s and moved up the hill, and it sits up the hill. So it does exist still, even though it's falling apart. And you got Kratz, Perkiomenville. Again, this one was rebuilt into a brick station because it needed to be larger because of traffic flow. So this one was rebuilt, not because it burnt, but because it needed to be larger. Now think about it, you're all the way down in Perkiomenville, dude, from Philadelphia to Perkiomenville. I think these prices are from the turn of the teens. I forget when these prices are from. Good old Green Lane. Green Lane, that's of course, Green Lane. That was torn down in the 60s for an Agway building. It's now Green Lane William Penn. Station's long gone. McLean Station, that's where the golf course is. That was a little whistle stop station. Apparently it was torn down some years ago. That's where, wow, I've lived around the corner my whole life almost. I can't remember the name of this golf course. Anyway, there's a golf course there. I'm sure someone will correct me. Red Hill, near and dear to me, born and raised, hometown, Red Hill. 1909, Red Hill used to be called Hillegasville. I'll get to that in a minute. Pennsburg Station, 1872. Pennsburg Station is still around, still exists, thankfully. I'd love to get a hold of that someday, but it probably won't happen. But beautiful station, still exists, privately owned. East Greenville Station. East Greenville Station, that still exists too. This one burnt down and was rebuilt in 1923. It was sold a few years ago, and a friend of mine was the realtor, and he messaged me and gave us first dibs on buying it, but we were only 90% short on the funds to buy that, so that wasn't going to happen. Any of the locals who remember driving by East Greenville Station for the longest while, there was a sign that said Daffy Junction that hung on the front. It made me wonder and annoyed me ever since I was young enough to see that sign. No idea what it was. One of our talks one day, one of the previous owners of the East Greenville Station, because it's a house now, so East Greenville Station is still there and it's a house. So one of the people who lived there at one time was at our talk. So I said to them, what was Daffy Junction? It was, I guess the kids were fans of Disney. And, no, not Disney. Wait, no, that's not Disney. Wow. Whew. Get my cartoons confused. They were a fan of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, and it's a train station, so the kids made the sign up. That's why I said Daffy Junction, not Disney. I don't know what I was saying. Palm, good old Palm. That was a nice little station, fairly busy. Corning, on Corning Road, you go down past Palm. On Corning Road is right there where the tracks are still in service, where they go through. It's a smaller station. Hosensack, that was just a little ways down, not far from the switchback. If you go down Powder Valley area and you see that old base of the water tower, if you go past that, don't look, come up the road, look to your right, you'll see that old base of the water tower. If you go back about an 1/8 mile, that's where Hosensack Station was. Zionsville, it's up off of Kings Highway. Garyville Pike. If you're not from the area, you say Jerryville Pike. If you're from the area, it's Garyville Pike. My grandmother used to live on 6th Street. Both my grandparents. And 6th Street goes right, you follow 6th Street and Red Hill long enough, it takes you to Garyville Pike. And I don't know how many times I'd be across the street in the parking lot with my car or in the driveway working on something, and people would come up to me and say, am I going the right way to get to Jerryville Pike? And of course, my first thing I always said to them was, you're not from around here, are you? It's because everyone from town calls it Garyville. Anyway, that's what that was. Dillinger Station. This station was not too far away from the Dillinger Tunnel. Then you have Veracruz. Veracruz, there was actually there was a water tower at Veracruz Station. From what I was told, some of the remnants of the tower, some of the bricks are still laying around, and I actually know the person who lives right in there, and I got asked at the time, but I always heard rumor that part of the Veracruz Station was some of the wood was used in the barn nearby. I got to ask them sometime. Emmaus with 1 M. They changed it in 1938 to 2 M's. Emmaus Station. Now, if you ever hear anybody talk about the train station that's still in Emmaus, there is a train station in Emmaus, but that's not the perk. You had you had the main line that came through Emmaus, and you had the Perk. The station for the main line, for the Reading main line, that station is still there, and it's a pizza place right now. And it's I forget the road it's on, but if you go in there, I forget the name of the place too. I have a video. Let's see my videos. My video about Emmaus. I did a little video, and I went inside. Very nice people that own the place, and they're very happy to talk about the history of the station. But the one that's still there was not part of the Perkiomen. Then you go into Emmaus. You have Emmaus Junction. There was no station there at Emmaus Junction. There was no station, but there was a switch tower that switched it onto the main line. So now, I said how there was 28 stations, give or take, at the peak. In the early days, there was some, I guess what we could call honorable mentions that pretty much escaped history. We know they existed. We don't know much about anything else about them. We don't even know 100% where all of them were. We just kind of knew where they were. And there's no photographs, no record. They were short-lived, like wakers, no information. That one was, if I remember correctly, that one was somewhere between Red Hill and East Greenville. Hanover, I should have researched these two a little bit more. Hanover Station, I think we know, was somewhere before the bridge, the one that was just taken out of Route 29 and goes into Pennsburg. We think Hanover was in there. Also, there was a station, which we don't exactly know 100% where it was. Before Red Hill, the station was built in 1909, and once it became Red Hill. Before it was called Red Hill, it was called Hillegasville. And there is a Hillegas station in Red Hill that was built in the 1870s. It was somewhere not far from the Red Hill station, but we're not sure. Again, I have a GPS coordinates that's on the West 2K site. I'm not sure that's accurate or not. But again, before Red Hill was called Red Hill, it was called Hillegas, and there was a Hillegas station, which that's one of the ones lost to history. There was another one. We don't have a placard for it. I don't remember what it was, but there was a couple really short-lived ones, and a couple changed their names early on. So, out of all the stations, the ones I did mention a couple that still exist. Oak Station, that's right near the convention center. It's really nice condition. I'm not sure exactly what's in there now, but it sits right at the one entrance on Egypt Road. Beautiful little station. I'd love to get a hold of it. Let's see, what else? Collegeville, like I said, that existed till the 80s, early 80s. If you ever go into Collegeville, that's where the Collegeville Diner is, with the Pizza Hut. They wanted to tear it down, but people were fighting to save it, and somehow it just accidentally burnt one night. Just really, hope you sense my sarcasm here. It just burnt, ironically, while people were trying to save it and fight it to keep it. What a surprise. Anyway, so then let's see what else still exists. Schwanksville. Snoozies. If you go through Schwanksville, unless you know a railroad once went through there and you know the Perkiomen Trail was a railroad, you would probably not know it was a train station. It's a little red brick one. It's called Snoozies, a little cafe, diner thing, a little cafe something, right on Main Street in Schwanksville. That still exists. Nice shape. The second, when the first one burnt, the station sign got burnt with it. When the new one was built, by that point, the station signs had like a porcelain on the front of them. That second sign is still there, and it's inside the restaurant. You still have it. Hendricks, like I said, Hendricks was a little 8x10, I think it was, whistle stop station. It was bought back in the 1950s by a family. It's moved up the hill, not far from where it was. It's falling apart. Don't comment about saving it. If you want to try, long story. Long story. Let's see, what else still exists? Like I said, Pennsburg Station, that's still there yet. That's nice shape. Beautiful building. I'd love to get it. The second East Greenville station is a home. Actually, Pennsburg is apartments in Pennsburg. East Greenville still exists, still there. It's a house. Palm Station is long gone, but not far from it, the original freight station for Palm is still there. So the Palm Freight Station is still there. Let's see. They said there was a station in Emmaus. Where are we? The Emmaus station is not the Perk station. I feel like I'm forgetting the station that still exists. There's not a lot. Like I said, you got Perk Junction. Yeah, Perk Junction just outside of Oaks, that's still there. Oaks is still there. Hendricks is still there. Pennsburg, East Greenville, the Palm Freight Station is still there. Dillinger, it's up the hill, falling apart. Kind of exists. So the one thing I almost forgot to mention is Southford Station. It doesn't look like it, and it's not on the same location anymore, but Southford Station still exists. It was bought some years ago and moved down to Zepp Road, and it's now a house. I found out where it was, and I'm like, well, they say it doesn't look like a station too much anymore. It looks like a house, but I figured, how hard could it be? Probably a single-story house, smaller single-story house. So I went down Zepp Road, and every house on that road looks just about as a single-story, smaller house. A friend of mine says he has the address for it. I'm not sure. I'll have to check. But so Southford Station is a house now, not far. It was moved down a little ways from where it sits, and it still exists in one form or another. So yeah, that was the stations of the Perkiomen. Again, 28 stations in 38 miles. You know, it said a lot about transportation back in those days when you didn't have it. And the thing I find funny is, like, you take going like Hendricks and Kratz area, Corning, McLean's, even like Zionsville, especially Hosensack. There is no houses back there now, and there's nobody back there. I couldn't imagine towns like I said, like Hosensack or McLean's or Kratz or Hendricks area. I couldn't imagine having the need for a train station back there, because I don't know where these people came from or why they would want to go there, because there's nothing there now. And back then, well, actually, most of the houses that are still there, they haven't built much new houses in those areas in a long time. So I find it interesting. But, you know, like I said, as buses and more reliable, affordable cars came around, people started driving more, and it killed off. It wasn't just on the Perk. It was everywhere. It was, you know, it was all over the place. You know, that modern transportation killed off the basic passenger trains. So, all right, well, I think that's it. These are the stations. Hope it was informative. Like I said, these plaques are from Pennypacker Mills. We had an exhibit there some years ago, and afterwards they gave us some of the display stuff. After we got our art, they gave us, of course, we got all our artifacts back. And then some of the display placards and stuff they gave us, so thankfully have them. And, all right, well, I will see you next time. Thanks for checking it out.